Hello and welcome to the brand called You. Today, the brand is Mr. Sreedhar Menon. Sreedhar is almost a legendary figure in the Indian American community, both for his early and high achievements in the professional field, as well as the tremendous work he's done in the philanthropic spheres. He served as the deputy president and board member of American Express Bank. He was chairman of American Express Bank International. He was managing director in Lehman Brothers, where he led the emerging markets group. He was also the vice chairman of RRE Venture Capital Fund, which is a tech VC. Welcome to the show, Sreedhar.
Thank you, Mandeep.
My first question is about your professional journey. You were one of the earliest Indians in the upper management of US and global financial services, reaching the board of American Express Bank. Nowadays, I guess it's a lot more common and global and diversified, but at that time, I imagine it was not as diversified. Tell us about your experience, first as the head of American Express Bank in India, and then making it to the board of the global bank.
Well, Sandeep, let me be very honest with you. When I joined American Express Bank in 1963 as an ordinary assistant, my greatest ambition was to become an assistant manager in that branch. Because in those days, in 63, there was hardly any Indian becoming a manager or country head.
It's all even in India.
In India, it was all expatriates, in those days.
Right.
So I think it was a tremendous journey, excellent experience, and I would say I happened to be at the right place at the right time. And once I got to a position, I always wanted, in a right spirit, my boss's job. Not that I wanted to be fired. What did it take me to get into his shoes? So that has been my motto throughout my journey in American Express Bank. And I must say I succeeded very well. And it's also true that you happen to be at the right place at the right time. Doesn't always come automatically.
Right.
And to refer to your question that I was one of the senior most to become a member of the board of American Express Bank, no, there were senior people in the US. For example, Victor Menezes, Citibank was a senior vice chairman in those days.
Right.
And there were a couple of other people whom I knew in the Hartford Insurance Company, etc., who was having very senior positions.
Yeah. Sreedhar, just proves my point. If you can count them on the fingers of your hand, then you were one of the earliest, because today, I guess, it's much more common. Did you walk into a room or a boardroom or sometimes and just had an experience where you or others, it felt different in the sense on that you were breaking some kind of a ceiling or breaking some kind of an expectation of a group as you got into one role after the other?
Fortunately, in American Express company and the bank, so subsidiary, I don't think there was any kind of a glass ceiling like that.
Mm-hmm.
They did not view between where you came from, etc. I think meritocracy was the rule in American Express throughout my experience. This is a company talking about people like Kenneth Chenault have become chairman and CEO too of American Express, so when Ash Gupta, she interviewed last year, has become very senior position too. So there's no glass ceiling as such, and I didn't find any kind of a bottleneck. No, once you prove yourself that you're capable of doing something and they earn your confidence, you move up.
Excellent. So that's good to hear that you never faced that. Now, American Express Bank was also lending in India, and that's never been easy. Witness the 200 billion or so in asset reconstruction even today. Did you find lending in India risky? lending in India to the Indian businesses, because that's the business you were building, was it a risky business at that time? Was it easy to lend money and recover money, or was it always difficult, as has been proven to many banks in India recently?
Quite contrary, I would say, Sandeep, that India was among the network of American bank countries and branches. India was the most profitable country, and we hardly had any loan losses to name compared to the profitability used to make. And we had cream of clients, most major groups in India for lending, deposits, letters of credit, foreign exchange. We were a kind of a bank, providing most of the services needed by corporate houses. And we have relationship with the Mukesh Ambani group. We had in those days with Dhirubhai Ambani. We have relations with Tata Group. We have relations with Singhania Group. We have relations with the Goenka Group. We have relations with Jindals. No, we didn't lose any money. It was an exhilarating experience, and we wish we had more countries like India in our network.
So, the current large asset reconstruction book or bad debt book in India, is that a localized public sector issue only, banks issue only, or if you do your business properly, you think that India is a good place to run a debt book?
I would be inclined to say, from my own experience and the instances I have followed, it is predominantly a public sector issue.
Mhm.
But if you look at banks like SDFC, Axis Bank, even ICICI, barring an isolated incident, there is not such of an experience. A Kota Mahindra Bank is a very successful bank too.
Mhm.
I think it is predominantly applicable to the public sector banks. And to my mind, the reason was lack of enforcement or discipline as far as the chairman and CEO of that particular sector bank was concerned. I'm saying that, for example, if he or she was to be the CEO of a US based bank and did the same thing, they would not have gotten away as they got away. There's no question about
Right.
it.
Yeah. Well, other considerations are have to be managed. So I understand that how do they end up when there is a mixture of objectives that the bank is trying to meet. After
Exactly.
your American Express and Lehman Brothers stint, you also spent time in the venture capital industry, serving as vice chairman of RRE Ventures. How was that experience? That was in the early years of the tech boom, as companies were really taking off, and what a journey it has been in the last 20, 25 years. Did you see the industry at that time as kind of potential gold mine as it has proven to be in the past 20 years? How was it to be in that early phases of, not that early, but still early in the recent boom phase of this whole journey of internet companies that have grown over the last 2 decades?
Let me first respond to Lehman Brothers.
Mhm.
It was just quite accidental that I joined Lehman Brothers. If I didn't have a conflict of uh, opinion as to how the bank should be run with the then CEO of American Express Bank, I would not have left American Express Bank. I was so happy there.
Mhm.
And the reason I left American Express Bank was that CEO refused to extend a very lucrative facility to one of the best clients, whom I am nurtured in India. And I submitted papers the next day without any job or something in Lehman Brothers. And it happened that the Lehman Brothers CEO heard that I stepped down, and they knew that I had excellent relationships with the Asian markets, starting from South Korea to Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. And they asked me whether would you be interested to join. It all happened over a lunch. And then I thought it was a nice thing to happen to me because I was only coming down 3 floors from 22nd floor to the 19th floor. I was parking
Yes.
the car in the same garage. I'll be using the same dining room. No change in life apart from the name of the organization. And I had to wait until Lehman was spun off.
Hmm.
I had to take a sort of a garden leave for 1 month because I could not have joined Lehman. So long as Lehman continued to be a subsidiary of American Express Bank, I would have lost perhaps a lot of my retirement benefits
Mhm.
from AmEx. So that was a very exciting experience, Lehman Brothers, because I turned out to be a very competitive person for Lehman for bringing businesses based on the excellent relationship we had built with the Indian industrialists. For example, if you know, Lehman Brothers was the first bank to lead an ADR or GDR for Reliance. So they co-lead with Morgan Stanley. Lehman Brothers was the first lead bank to lead GDR for State Bank of India. The same goes with Larsen Tubro, because this was all based on the excellent relationship we had built, and we went for beauty cutters like all of the banks, and in most of the cases, we won the mandate. It was a very exciting experience, and leaving Lehman Brothers, although in retrospect it turned out to be good, the time I left, I regretted it because the only reason I had to leave Lehman Brothers was based on the success I had in the stint at Lehman Brothers. They wanted me to move to Hong Kong
Ah.
as a very senior officer in Hong Kong for the Asian market, because that's where all my connections were.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is just about nearly after we have relocated to Swaddles, New Jersey. And my wife had no hesitation saying, you go, I'm not coming. Judy was
Right.
school and studying, etc. It was not convenient for it also. So I didn't go. I said, well, I'm not. So, so Lehman hired somebody for that market. And that's the time I said, in that case, I will leave. And I had lunch with Jim Robinson, who was the chairman of RRE Ventures at that time. And he said, why don't you come and join us? And we are raising capital. And Jim knew that I had a lot of relationship in Asia, and particularly in some of the countries like UK, etc.
Mhm.
So I joined them immediately as my chairman.
Did I hear it right? You said you put in your papers because the bank CEO refused to extend a loan to somebody you had recommended to. So it was that instantaneous of a decision over 1 day, one deal?
It was an instantaneous decision of 1 day overnight. And in fact, I didn't even tell my family, even my daughter. So when I went home that evening, I told family that I resigned. And poor Jyoti asked me, oh, Daddy, how are we going to eat from tomorrow? It was an instantaneous question that came out of my mind.
Right. Wow, that takes some guts. And then you ended up with
Not much, let me tell you, I gave a lot of importance to the relationship I built up.
okay, so that was your secret throughout. Give relationship importance, and if you see the company doing something that you think is not right for the overall relationship, then you'd rather preserve the relationship than the job. Was that kind of the thinking behind that? Seems like, huh?
Yeah, that was, you put it right.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving to RRE then. So Jim Robinson was obviously the CEO at American Express overall. At some point, that's how probably you had gotten to know him well. So you went from Lehman to RRE and joined as vice chairman with the responsibility to raise capital. Now, typically one would think that's a job that goes to somebody who is well connected into the old boys network, has gone to the same prep schools, universities, belongs to the same golf club. How did you kind of manage to do that role at that level?
To tell you an example, when they were raising the first fund, they went up to raise $100 million.
Mhm.
And they had lined up Smith Barney as the lead investor of 15 million because Jim was very friendly with Sandy, who was the former chairman and CEO of Smith Barney as well as Citigroup, Sandy White. And I told Jim, yes, I got a lot of. Jim knew that I had a lot of relationships, both in the Chinese community in Singapore, Hong Kong, and a couple of people in London, and of course, India is very difficult to get money for the wealthy people because of the exchange control regulations there. Not that easy. Still, I got a couple of people whose names I don't know what to mention, and they went to raise $100 million, but they couldn't reach the 100 million. They raised about 97.5, and I brought 25 million out of the 97.5. Which is a good chunk of the first capital raise.
And that was all the relationships you had accumulated over time working in the bank and in Asia. Was that your main focus, or did you also extend that into India, into US?
It was the relationship built while I was working with the bank, and built the clients, particularly in the rich Chinese business people in Hong Kong, and as well as Singapore, and one or two of them in Malaysia.
Do you find any difference in building relationships in Asia versus in US, or is it all the same?
No, it's not all the same. So it is. In US, relationship is based on business.
Mm-hmm.
In Asia, other than business, there's a personal aspect to it. You build a relationship, you get closer. You go out for dinner, more of them. You go into Korean restaurants and Japanese restaurants and have fun, etc. So it's a totally different kind of a personal relationship you build in Asia as opposed to the relationship you build in the US.
Let's move to. I'm tempted to explore the lead there on Korean and Japanese restaurants, but I'd leave that alone. I want to move to the philanthropic part, Sreedhar. Your role in creating and leading various important philanthropic initiatives, particularly for the Indian American community. The center at University of Pennsylvania, Sopti Chair, and Raj Center at Columbia, and several other initiatives, the Mattu Center that you have led and contributed to significantly. How do you see the activity done by the community, Indian American community and diaspora? And how do you see it change? How has it changed over last decade or two?
It is an awakening you get. For example, once I visited the Sai Baba Center in Whitefield near Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I entered there was a board which said, "Hands that give are holier than lips that pray." Somehow that registered in my mind very strongly. And when I came back, I thought, I came from a very, very, very ordinary family. Very ordinary family. I even had to borrow money from the own jewelers to pay the fees for my master's degree in Maharaja's College. So I came from that background, and when I succeeded here, I thought it's time for me to give back to the society in which I live and the society in which I came from. And since I came from India, my original focus was almost entirely on India. And my most important charity was now the names you mentioned. The most important charitable initiative undertaken in my life is Shanti Bhavan Educational Trust. I don't know if you heard about Shanti Bhavan.
I've heard you have introduced me to them, and I've heard about them. Yes, but
Yeah.
why don't you tell us about what they do?
A unique education institution providing state-of-the-art boarding-style school education, the poorest to the poor, mostly the untouchable community, divided equally between girls and boys. And today, I've been associated with them for nearly 21 years. I created an endowment there for the college education of the kids graduating from the school, along with two of my friends. It has been the most rewarding and satisfying experience in my life, in the sense that the best return on my investment, return in terms of satisfaction. I'm not talking physical dollars, which I ever made.
Sure.
Today, Shanti Bhavan has, apart from the people working in India for first-class companies like Microsoft, Wipro, and Google, and all that, Goldman Sachs. We have 22 people studying in the United States. One girl is studying in the Ivy League in Dartmouth.
Wow.
One girl is doing PhD in clinical psychology at Hofstra University. It's been a wonderful experience, and there is no institution like Shanti Bhavan anywhere in the world. It is so unique. And then, of course, I did the first initiative here was establish the Jagdish Bhagwati Chair in Columbia University.
Yeah.
Long before the Deepak Raj Center. Then I set up Advanced Study of India, along with the Sotis. Also sent the associate with the Center of India Studies at Stony Brook University. So mainly my focus was on education related fields applicable to India, predominantly.
Yeah.
Except that last year it dawned on me that we should also do something in the healthcare. So Deepak Raj, Rajesh Soti, and I joined together and set up an endowed professorship for research in musculoskeletal disorders and diseases impacting the Indian American community in the tri-state area. We set it up at the NYU Langone Hospital of the Grossman School of Medical Sciences in New York University. We set up in October last year.
Is that a particular area that affects the Indian American community? I've heard about the heart issues of the community, but I didn't know that muscular skeleton issues were also specific to the community.
Joint related diseases, on a percentage basis, it is much larger among the Indian community in the tri-state area.
I see.
Why? People are doing the research, etc. But I would say the first reason people are striving to that is, diabetics. The world average for Indian community for diabetic is pretty high.
Okay. Yeah, diabetes is definitely a big issue.
6 as opposed to 0.6 in the world for the lives.
Mm-hmm.
So this research is, we are trying the professional research is just starting. I hope something very good will come out of that.
So education, health,
Education
has
and
been,
healthcare,
yeah.
like the areas of focus.
What now? Not everybody has reached a stage where they are able to spare millions of dollars for philanthropy. What would you say to young professionals? How should they get engaged? At what age? With what kind of a contribution? What would be a good way for some of the young professionals to get engaged in giving?
I don't know how to exactly answer that question. I would say that once I reached a comfortable stage of my career,
Mhm.
which I would say was 92, 93, when I became deputy president, I used to get good stock options and bonds, etc. I made it a point to contribute about 20 to 25% of my adjusted gross income for charities. That was the yardstick I had made for myself.
And an ongoing thing. You did not save up to do a major thing later on. You kind of started doing it annually at that rate.
Sandeep, luck also played a part in the sense that when I left AmEx, I had tons of stock options.
Mhm.
And it was over a period of time to splits, etc., it was at a ridiculously low price.
Yeah.
I made a lot of money cashing those options.
Mhm.
Even Lehman Brothers, I was lucky to sell the shares at about $120, $160 a share. When people who stayed on, they had to accept those shares as the toilet paper when Lehman bellied up. A few years later. And RRE also, it was a very lucrative assignment, although I was there only for 3, 4 years. Lucrative in the sense that partners used to be preferred allocation for IPOs at the issue price. That also gave me a good kind of income.
Got it.
And then VTOs also turned out to be a tremendous investment for us because I started along with Shankar VTOs in 1990, early in 2001, I think,
Mhm.
And 2017, the first liquidity took place, and it was a tremendous payback.
And of course, you uh, deserved making those profits and gains, but not everybody plows them back. So great that you did, and set an example that we can learn from and follow. Let's move to some personal stories.
It's a combination of reasons, for several other people may not have reached my age. They say we'll wait, And some other people, I would say I don't want to name anybody, I know several people in the RP, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, and several people in the IIT Alums. I'm sorry, you're an IIT Alum. I call some of them deep pockets and short arms. which is true. At the same time, there are some great people like, Deepak Raj, who opens up the wallets weekly, and Manish Pabrai. You know Manish Pabrai?
Yes. I don't know him, but I know of him.
Organization, so there are people. And Prem
Yes.
Vatsa of IIT Chennai, who is based in Toronto,
Yeah.
Fairfax Holdings. There are people, but you can count them on your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get personal, Sreedhar. Tell us about your childhood. What are a couple of the major influences that shaped your life early on?
In my childhood,
Yes. We say that, the story you hear as a child is what you repeat all your life. What did you hear as a child that has shaped you? Heard, saw, experienced?
it is very difficult for me to openly say, the experience I went through the childhood. I would say my dad was an idol,
Mhm.
very simplistic person. He always said, study well, don't look back, don't look what others are doing, take care of yourselves.
Mhm.
And as I told you before, I didn't have the money to go to college, etc. And my father's brother came to my help. He paid for 6 years of college education financing.
Mhm.
So I was very lucky to childhood. That is an experience I can never forget. It doesn't happen these days, because I would say one thing that made it happen was probably because we all lived in a joint family, like a Hindu undivided family
Yeah.
for a long period of time.
Did that shape your view on how you should help others get educated?
My childhood life and the difficulties I went through in my life and the difficulties my parents and uncle had to face to educate me definitely had an influence over my thinking as to helping the others.
Um, I know you as very confident, almost clear, speaking clearly, almost blunt sometimes, and clear in your thinking. What advice would you give? What clear, blunt advice would you give a 25-year-old Sreedhar if you could go back and mentor that person?
I would say that you must have an objective in life. And you must have a goal as to how you reach that objective. What are the action steps? And you should relentlessly and religiously follow that to the T. You will not succeed always. You will be occasional setbacks. Doesn't matter. Think about the setbacks, why it happens. Try to cross the hurdle, but follow the journey.
To set a goal early in life.
Yeah.
Let's do a section. We do a rapid fire. I'll ask you quick questions, short, quick answer, whatever comes to your mind. What's the most played song on your iPhone or phone or whatever you use to listen to music?
You can call me a Cassius Clay of Shakespeare, but I'm not a music fan.
Okay.
What I have is the Dhanvantari mantra, which I chant. Dhanvantari mantra.
Mandodri mantra, okay.
Which I chant whenever I get time. I do that 11 times when I get up, or 11 times before I sleep. Have you heard that mantra?
I haven't.
You want to listen to that?
I will look it up on YouTube after this.
Well, I can tell you one sentence.
Sure.
It says, you can edit it and take it away, or whatever,
Yeah.
Ugram Viram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvatho Narasimham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityur Muktim Namami Aham.
What does it mean? What does it signify?
It is in transcript. You said you look at the book and you will find it. I'll leave it to you for that.
Okay. Okay. I know you're a passionate foodie as well as a wine lover. What's your favorite dish to eat and where?
Well, I would say my favorite dish is Dovo Sol Meunier in one of the best Italian restaurants.
Okay. And
perfection.
Cooked to perfection. Dovo Sol, very light, nice flaky fish. What's your favorite wine? I'm always afraid. Your and my deal is if you're going to go out for dinner, you're going to bring the wine. I'm happy to pick the dinner, but because I'm always intimidated by your wine knowledge. What's your favorite wine, Sreedhar?
Well, my favorite wine is Bordeaux. And within the category, I like Margaux. I like Chateau Margaux. I like Chateau Haut-Brion.
Yeah.
I like Chateau Mountain Rothschild. Chateau Lafite Rothschild. I have very limited quantity of those in my cellar. If you ever find time to come in when the COVID-19 is over, we can afford share a bottle of wine.
Of course.
I enjoy my wine. I drink a couple of glasses of wine almost 4 or 5 times a week.
Well, that's what we love about you, your love for life and good things. What made you laugh out loud recently?
I really do, because when I watch TV, Sandeep, to be honest, I watch CNN and CNBC. Beyond that, I watch sports, cricket, tennis, and basketball.
Yeah.
That's why I spend my time watching on TV. I don't watch these jokes and all that, I don't watch American Idol and AmEx to make me laugh.
None of the comedy shows, none of the stand-ups, not Saturday Night Live.
No, I'm not that type of.
Well, some of the politics last year has been pretty funny as well. So maybe that made you laugh or cry. I don't know.
Yeah. Politics, I decided to step back from politics, for reason that felt right to me 3-4 years ago.
Final question, Sreedhar. What is the brand Sreedhar Menon in your own words? If you were to describe your own personal brand, what would it be?
Very honest, very blunt, very straightforward, very sincere, who speaks up his mind, no matter what.
I can personally vouch to all those attributes, Sreedhar. It was fantastic talking to you. And I look forward to taking you up on that offer to share a bottle of wine soon. And I hope this COVID thing goes away soon and you're back from your trip to India and we'd be able to get together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.